strangled by a family friend 13 years ago have expressed alarm about her murderer's possible release from prison. Rachel Barber's parents warn that Caroline Reed Robertson...
Rachel Barber had big dreams of being a musical theater star. At just 15 years old, Rachel was already a gifted dancer training at a reputable performing arts school in Melbourne, Australia. Rachel worked tirelessly to perfect her craft, inspired by classic musicals like Cats in Chicago. She hoped one day her name would be up in lights. When she wasn't at dance class, Rachel led a pretty normal teenage life. She came from a loving family, had a lot of great friends, and had a cute boyfriend named Emmanuel, whom all the girls were jealous of. Overall, Rachel was happy and felt like she had the perfect balance. Her future seemed so bright. On the evening of March 1st, 1999, Rachel's boyfriend Emmanuel was surprised when Rachel said she had to go to a secret new job that night. She didn't give any details, only that she would earn a lot of money. Emmanuel thought it seemed fishy, but Rachel promised she was fine. He figured maybe she was doing some late-night modeling gig. But when Rachel didn't come home that night, her family panicked. Rachel always called if she was going to be out late. First thing the next morning, her parents called the police to report Rachel missing. Detectives interviewed all of Rachel's friends and teachers. Her dance instructor said Rachel left class around 7 p.m. the night before. On her way out, Rachel had mentioned to her friend Jane that she was going to make big money that night. The police found out that Rachel got on streetcar number 12 around 8 o'clock at night. A person saw Rachel talking to another young woman in the car. But that was the last time anyone definitely saw Rachel. After she was in the car, Rachel seemed to disappear. No one saw her after that car ride. As days passed with no sign of Rachel, her case gained increased media attention. Rachel's parents made emotional pleas before the cameras for any clue that could bring their daughter home. Everyone in the community wanted to help Rachel's family. They held candlelight praying for her safe return. People passed out flyers all over town with Rachel's photo asking for help finding her. But it was so painful for Rachel's mom, dad, and siblings. They were worried sick, not knowing where Rachel was or if she was okay. Every day without answers was torture for Rachel's loved ones. They just wanted her home safe again. Not knowing what happened to Rachel was the hardest part. Nearly 2 weeks after she vanished, police finally got a major break in the case. A 19-year-old woman named Caroline Reed Robertson had been brought in for questioning. During the investigation, Caroline admitted she was the woman who met up with Rachel in the car the night she disappeared. Asked what she knew about Rachel's fate, Caroline dropped an eye-opening revelation. Caroline calmly told the police how to get to land her family owned outside the city. When the police went there, they made the sad discovery of Rachel's body buried in a rough grave on the farm. The police found Rachel's body in a shallow hole in the ground that was dug to bury her. The doctors did an autopsy to examine Rachel's body. They concluded that Rachel died by being strangled. She was choked to death. Right away, Caroline was arrested for Rachel's murder, but Caroline said it was an accident that happened while they were fighting. She claimed she did not mean to kill Rachel. News of Caroline's arrest and Rachel's killing amazed the community. How could this vibrant, talented girl be pulled away from everything she loved at just 15 years old? Investigators pieced together Caroline's history with Rachel to understand what could drive her to commit such a horrific crime. It turned out Caroline's path had crossed with Rachel's several times over the past few years. She had watched and studied Rachel from a distance. Learning her habits, Caroline very cleverly found ways to become part of Rachel's friend group. She was able to make Rachel's parents trust her. They trusted Caroline so much that they hired her to babysit Rachel and Rachel's younger brother and sister on weekends. But Caroline's nice, friendly act was hiding her evil obsession with Rachel. The police found Caroline's long diary in her room. The diary showed Caroline had been planning very carefully for months how she would take Rachel away, kill her, and pretend to be her. Caroline's diary had lots of details about how she would do all of this in a much planned, calculated way. Some very scary parts of Caroline's diary described how she would get drugs to make Rachel pass out. Then she planned to strangle Rachel and hide her body far away. These chilling diary entries made the police realize this was no accident like Caroline said at first. The police knew this was a purposeful, thought-out, cold-blooded murder that Caroline had been planning for a long time. On the evening she vanished, Rachel believed she was simply going to Caroline's apartment to complete a paid psychology survey. She never could have imagined she was walking into a carefully laid trap. When Rachel arrived at Caroline's apartment, Caroline served her homemade pizza for dinner. But Rachel did not know that Caroline had put a strong medicine in the pizza that would make Rachel very sleepy. Caroline secretly put that antihistamine drug in the pizza to make Rachel drowsy without her knowing. The drugs Caroline put in the pizza made Rachel very out of it and unable to fight back. Then Caroline wrapped a telephone cord around Rachel's neck and choked her to death. Caroline squeezed the cord so tight it took away the life from Rachel's body. After killing her, Caroline kept Rachel's body in the apartment while Caroline planned what to do next. Over the next few days, Caroline started pretending to be Rachel, who was now dead. Caroline boldly applied for loans, signed up for classes, and tried to get a copy of Rachel's birth certificate, all so she could steal Rachel's identity. Meanwhile, the real Rachel was lying lifeless, thrown away like garbage beside the shallow grave on the farm where she was found 2 weeks later. For Rachel's family, this was the worst nightmare. Their daughter was gone and buried on a farm like she was nothing. Digital evidence proved key to confirming Caroline's involvement. Call records showed communication between her and Rachel around the time of the disappearance. Search history on Caroline's computer revealed the research into obtaining sedatives. Caroline didn't feel sorry at all, even though there was a lot of proof against her. She coldly said she picked Rachel on purpose to pretend to be someone else, like in a strange daydream. Doctors who study mental health said Caroline had a mental illness, but they still thought she knew what she was doing. The judge and jury agreed, and they said she did a really bad thing called first-degree murder. So in the year 2000, they decided she had to go to jail for 20 years. Caroline got out of jail in 2013, but the pain and sadness caused by Rachel's death couldn't be fixed. Rachel had a bright future ahead of her, but it was taken away by someone she thought was her friend, for no good reason. Rachel's kind and good-hearted nature continues to be remembered by the people who loved her. Her story reminds us to be careful and watch out for people with troubling obsessions. Rachel won't be remembered only for how she died, but also for the beautiful way she lived her life.